All right, Evil Dead the game 1.0.5 Survivor tier list. A couple things before I get started. Number one, this list is going to change just based on the time I've now spent in the game compared to my first Survivor tier list, and I have a serious change of opinion on a lot of these survivors and where they belong, just based on my time spent either playing them or getting to play with some of them who are level 25 and getting to see for myself just how strong some of them are. The second thing is the patch notes down there as far as balancing goes. That's going to change a couple of things. The only things that happened were nerfs to both Cheryl and Evil Dead 1 Ash. And they are Cheryl's active healing on her Q ability was reduced from 460 over 6 seconds to 360 over 6 seconds. So 100 less health than it used to be. And then her active cooldown goes from 90 seconds to 120 seconds. So you got to wait 30 more seconds to be able to use her ability, which is pretty brutal. I think that's worse than the healing nerf, honestly. And then support Ash healing on heavy reduced from 35 to 25. I think that's really bad. So I guess that's probably where we should get started. I think that makes him the worst character in the game now. I think that's a really brutal nerf. Looking at the patch notes, I didn't think that would impact him as much as it did. But I've been playing a lot of Evil Dead 1 Ash lately to make for a future video on a build with him, and it's brutal, man. It's very noticeable. And it's way harder to keep yourself healed in combat because Ash is a combat healer, and it's way harder to keep yourself topped up. It's way harder to keep your team topped up. It cuts his healing down by a lot. He already, I think, was the weakest support of the three. This makes him even worse. I don't understand it. I don't understand why he was nerfed. I don't understand why Cheryl was nerfed either, because I think that there's more problematic characters than her. Although I should say I don't think anyone on Survivor or Demon side should be getting nerfs this early into the game. We still don't know what the balance is like at this point. It's too early, I think, to be dishing out balance stuff. But yeah, I think it makes him the worst character in the game. And by the way, I also want to say none of these characters are bad. None of these characters are unusable. None of these characters are like, oh, you're throwing if you pick them. Even Evil Dead 1 Ash in D tier. I know I'm blocking it, but that's D tier. Even he is not a throw pick. They're all good. So don't freak out if your main is lower on the tier list. Right after him, I would put Scotty, or just ahead of him, I guess you could say. Scotty's just not good, dude. He's still a warrior, so he's still going to do a lot of damage, but like his abilities compared to the other warriors are just so bad because number one, his AoE attack does half the damage that AOD Ashes does. But also the range on his thing where he does heavy attacks and it damages everything around him, like the range on that plus the amount of damage it does is only 13%. It's just really bad. So like he's just not very good. And in his case, he at least has a level 25 ability that ups his damage with a lumberjack axe. And the lumberjack axe is the best weapon in the game, in my opinion. So that's good at least. But then you have exposure therapy, which reduces your fear levels by 5. And that's just not good. So I think these are the two D tier characters. And then you're kind of moving on up from there. I would put, dude, I've already seen comments of people complaining about where I put this guy, but I still think he's in C tier. He's still not bad. The problem is that he doesn't specialize in anything the way the other two do. Yeah, the other two leaders. And that's not good because doing less, giving less of a buff compared to the other leaders in exchange for giving a buff to both ranged and melee damage is not good. I'd rather have somebody who's specialized in one or the other. Annie gives an unbelievable buff. His is what, 10%? He gives a 10% damage bonus. Arthur gives 30%. Annie gives 100%. So it's like, and granted, Ash's is active at all times. Arthur is active at all times, and Annie needs to be activated. But even still, like, I don't like a character that, and he's still a good character. I'm not saying he's bad. He still can do crazy things. All these characters can. And I think that's one of the reasons this game is so good, is that all these characters are unique and bring something to the table that can help your team. So he's still a good character. It's just like, I don't like a character that is a jack of all trades, master of none. In the case of AOD Ash, he's a master of everything. So, there's other characters who are good at literally everything. Or amazing at literally everything. He's good at everything. He's not amazing at anything. So he's C tier for me. After him, it's tough. I honestly think that I would put Cheryl here. Cheryl, especially now that she's nerfed. God, I think all the supports are good because the built-in support ability is so good. But honestly, if you were to ask me, like, what is the meta comp? I don't know if Cheryl's a part of it anymore. She's so hard to rate now. God, I don't know. I don't know if I want to put her in C tier though either. I think she's probably better than that. I don't know where I'd put her. She's still really good, but that nerf hurt a lot. Those nerfs down there hurt her a lot. Man, I don't know where to put her. And here's the other thing about supports. They're not very good at doing anything but like healing, like supporting their team. They're not going to deal a ton of damage or anything like that. So that really hurts them. So if they're not good at like healing, then what good are they? Like, so I don't know where to put her. I'd probably put her in B tier. Maybe C tier is a little too harsh. Yeah, I'd probably put her in B tier. Next, I think I'd put Kelly in C tier. Now, again, before people freak out, hunters are crazy. All the hunters in the game are crazy. All of them can do crazy damage. All right, including Kelly. Her bleed is nuts. She's a great character. However, because she is kind of split skis between doing bleed damage and doing range damage like a hunter should be doing versus using a meat hammer, which is one of the worst weapons in the game, I think that puts her in C tier because she just has abilities that don't mesh with each other. Like, you don't want to be meleeing with, like, the meat hammer is so bad that even with her proficiency ability, you don't want to pick it up. That's how bad the meat hammer is. Like, you know how people are like, oh, if you get a meat hammer, give it to Kelly. Like, as I've practiced over time, I've realized most Kellys are not going to want the meat hammer. They'd rather have a better weapon because the meat hammer is that bad. After that, God, all these characters are so good after that. I think I would probably put Amanda in B tier. And the reason I'd put Amanda in B tier and not A or S tier is because I think arguably the best damage perk in the game is the last word, which is the perk in every hunter's tree that makes it so the last shot in your magazine does extra damage. 30% damage increase is quite a bit. The problem with her is that she wants to use a pistol all the time. As good as the blunderbuss is, as good as the hunting rifle is, as good as the revolver is, like, most of the time she wants to use her pistol because she wants faster attack speed, so she could shoot super fast, which means she can unload a ton of bullets, which she uses her ability. It means that she could shoot a ton of bullets to rack up accuracy count stacks once she gets to level 25. And because of that, it kind of makes or not the last word, I guess it's called last chance. Because of that, it makes last chance not as good because each bullet is going to do less damage than, the one bullet coming out of a blunderbuss. And she gets infinite ammo, so it's going to get to the point where it's like, the last bullet in her gun is not going to happen because she's got infinite ammo. She's not expending ammunition. So because of that, it makes her kind of weird, because I think the pistol's kind of a weird weapon compared to some of the other ones like the revolver and the blunderbuss. And the revolver is very, very good. Probably better than I gave it credit for back in my ranged weapon video. Next, I would probably say, the rest are all very good. I would probably put Pablo in here at B tier. And the reason I would put Pablo at B tier is that he's kind of on par with Cheryl now, I think, after Cheryl's nerf. Being able to craft amulets is very, very important late game. Amulets are like the first thing you're going to run out of. Also, the ability to be able to run off on your own can be very important in solo queue, not being able to be seen. I've also seen good Pablo players like carry towards the end of the match if people start getting down and it looks like you're about to lose. Demon can't find where they are, and then they run off and get a res off. So I think not being able to be seen is huge, and then all of his amulet-based stuff is really good, and being able to craft stuff is huge late game. You're going to run out of healing items when you get to the book and to the dark ones and stuff. So being able to like craft an amulet and pop an amulet and heal everybody up late is huge. After that, I would say I'd probably put Annie in A tier. Annie's crazy. Annie I've been playing a lot of. Annie is way better than I gave her credit for initially. 100% range damage increase on her ability is insane. It basically makes her a hunter while she has that active. If she's paired with a hunter, oh boy. I honestly think that like the meta comp will probably be one hunter and an Annie. The other two I don't really know yet. Probably like an AOD Ash and a healer. But an Annie paired with a hunter is disgusting. You're going to be one-shotting literally everything, and I think that's really important as we see demon players get better and bosses become even tankier. You're going to need a lot of damage. Like, I've seen some people comment on some of my videos and be like, hey man, you don't really need all that extra damage. Like, you know, it's excessive. Like, you're going to be one-shotting bosses anyway. And I think it's true on some perks. Like, I'll probably definitely go back and redo some of those videos, but you'd be surprised. Once you start facing some level 45 demons who put their points into, leveling up their boss, it gets nuts, dude. Like, they're really, really hard to kill, and they can tank some serious damage. So having an Annie buffing a hunter is really crazy and really, really good. So I think that puts her in A tier. And even without a hunter, she's basically like a pseudo hunter herself. So she could kind of replace a hunter in your comp. She's like a hunter if you took away some of her stamina and instead gave her way more like fear reduction. So that's kind of the trade-off there. After that, I would say I would put, and you're probably thinking, why is Ed still here? I'd probably put Ed up here in A tier. Yeah, he was the worst character in the game in my last tier list, and now he's all the way up in A tier. The reason I think that it was so hard to rate him is because he has two abilities that are utterly useless. He has his flashlight ability, which you don't need at all, because you don't need that much flashlight battery, because even if you use your flashlight liberally, you should never, ever come close to running out of it, and you shouldn't have it on all the time anyway, because you're going to be blinding your teammates and making it hard for them to see. So that ability is useless. And then his crossbow proficiency is useless, in my opinion, because the crossbow is useless, in my opinion. So you pretty much never want to use the crossbow. You want to use the typical stuff like the revolver, the blunderbuss, the hunting rifle, things like that. And then the reason he's an A tier is because his first ability is ridiculous. His ability to disable traps can handcuff the demon like crazy. And it's so good against Necromancer because you can turn on his special flashlight. And one of the top plays now that demons have become more experienced is to put the flautist inside of like a house and then lay traps all over the place. So it takes forever to get to it. Ed could just turn on his flashlight and go get that Flautus, and none of the traps will work. When you get to the dagger step, and when you get to the lost pages and the book and the dark ones, where there's going to be lots of traps being laid, he can disable all those. And that's massive, because this is a step where the demon needs to be doing a lot of damage and outputting a lot of units and accumulating a lot of fear so he could possess people. And Ed being able to shut all that down is crazy. And it lasts a super long time is the crazy thing. I think it's, I'll check right now. I think it's like 40 seconds is how long it lasts for. Yeah, 40-second duration. That's the craziest part about it, is the 40-second duration. So he gets 40 seconds on and then 60 seconds off. That's nuts. And then he has his level 25 ability, which is ridiculous, which causes enemies to drop more items. So there's going to be more healing items for your healers. There's going to be more ammo for your hunters, including himself. It's going to make chests rarer, so you're going to get upgraded and more pink F stuff better. You're going to get better weapons. Like it's nuts. And it does have a very big noticeable impact. When I've played with level 25 Eds on my team, we pretty much get blues and purples left and right. Like it's nothing but blues and purples for the most part. It's really crazy the impact that it has. After that, I put Arthur up here in A tier. When he gets to level 25, he gets really out of control. He's somebody that I think is kind of overlooked by a lot of people because they don't understand just how absurd this guy is once he's level 25. Because not only are his buffs really good, you know, so he gets 30% melee damage, reduces fear levels, you know, 15-second duration. He gives 30% bonus damage to lights and heavies. But then this pauses the timer for 3 seconds. So essentially, when you're at the dagger step, the lost pages, and so on, he basically keeps that up the whole fight. He keeps up his active ability for the entire fight if you're good. If you know what you're doing and you execute finishers well, he's going to keep up his ridiculous ability for the entire fight, and that is outrageous. Like you're going to be dealing so much damage if you have another melee character on your team, and he himself is going to be doing as much damage as like a warrior does, if not more so. So Arthur's really crazy once he gets to level 25. And I think that puts him solidly in A tier. And then the last three here are all in S tier. They are all in S tier. And these are the three S tier guys to me. Not necessarily in this order, probably more like that order. Let me tell you why. First off, Henry the Red. Henry the Red, I underestimated a little bit. I think he was already in A tier, but I underestimated him even back then because he's so tanky. But the thing that makes him really crazy is his active ability, and it's not because it makes him like super unkillable. It's because of its ridiculous utility. Like if you use his Q as more of a defensive ability, as in only use it when you're about to go down, only use it when you need to heal somebody off the ground, it's insane. It basically means every 60 seconds you get to heal somebody off of the ground for free. And that's outrageous because that's like, I have completely turned games around with Henry the Red that way. I had a match where I almost carried our team to victory by myself, and it wasn't until the demon possessed me and ran me out into the storm that I finally lost. But he can activate it when he's rezzing people too, and he can't be interrupted. He can't be interrupted performing any action while he has his Q active, and that's a ridiculous amount of utility. Plus, he's a warrior, so he already deals a ton of damage. And then I think if you build him as someone who's super tanky and make sure that he's like the last person standing and use that Q as a defensive measure rather than like wait for the boss to show up and pop your Q and start wailing on him, which is how I said to play him, which I don't think is how you should now. he just has so much utility that he becomes a menace in an online game. So he's just ridiculous. Evil Dead 2 Ash. I think he's arguably the best character in the game. I think he's arguably even better than AOD Ash. And the reason for that is that I think as time goes on, possessions are becoming more and more important. So not only are possessing your teammates really important for the demon, I've noticed that like Henrietta players in particular, possessing basic units has become a thing now. Where I've noticed that like demon players just possess a basic unit and just wail on you, and they get a ton of HP. Like these level 45 demons are speccing their characters now to where like a basic unit has the same amount of HP as like a boss, and they're really hard to kill. So having the ability to just be like, see you later, is really important on both basic units as they become stronger and your teammates. Because one of the worst things is if you have another hunter on your team, then they could get possessed and down your whole team in a few shots. So I think his possession ability alone is so outrageous that it puts him in S tier just on its own. And then you have the fact that he's a hunter and can deal an absurd amount of damage. Plus he can see chests through walls, which the range on that is much greater than the range of the sound chests make. I think all that stuff makes him easy S tier. And then AOD Ash, I still think that he's the best character in the game. He has so much utility. He does everything. This dude can't die. He does a ton of damage. He can mitigate his own fear. He can heal himself. He can deal AoE damage. He can give himself shield. Like the list just keeps going and going and going. And he's a case of somebody who is great at literally everything. Like he can do it all. The one thing that he's probably not great at is managing his fear. But that's really not a huge deal on a warrior, because as long as you have a good hunter on your team or an Evil Dead 2 Ash like that, they can depossess him fairly easily because he's not going to be hitting people with ranged weapons. So I still think AOD Ash is the best in the game, and that Wiseman's potion is so ridiculous, dude. Not only does it do a lot, but the duration of it is insane. It lasts like 20 seconds. It lasts forever, man. So yeah, I still think AOD Ash is the best character in the game, just because he does everything. But yeah, hey, let me know what you think about this new tier list after the nerfs. Let me know what you think about the nerfs, and if you think it had as big of an impact on the characters that got nerfed, Cheryl and Evil Dead 1 Ash, as I do. Let me know if you agree or disagree on the placement. And remember, please, if you made it this far in the video, please keep in mind, all these characters are good. All these characters are viable. This is just where I would put them in order of weakest to strongest. Doesn't mean the weakest characters are bad or unusable or that you're throwing when you pick them. They're still good, I promise. It just means they're not as good as the people that are above them. That's all. That's all I'm saying. But hey, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hey, thanks for watching.